Hello friends, how are you all doing? After the comparison video between the Explorer and the other watches, the Ranger, Alpinist and the Summiteer, I got a lot of comments and feedback from you, which I really appreciate. And I learned a lot, so I feel like I had to make some small changes in the final scores to bring some of that knowledge and those comments into the comparison. So now let's check it out.
Maybe the most controversial thing was the scratch handling of the watch. And a commenter of the first video told me that the 31L steel is only 15% stronger or harder than the 904L steel. Thus, maybe it wasn't such a fair comparison. So what I have done is I have added 5 points and I consider the Summiteer the strongest, basically because of the coating that it has to make it 1200 weakest resistant. And then the Ranger, where you combine 31L steel like the Alpinist, but the Ranger having everything brushed it handles scratches much easier than the other watches. So the Explorer gets 5 more points, which increases its overall total score by quite a bit. Now, the next thing is the water resistance. I wasn't convinced at the beginning, the first video, about giving only 9 points, but I have decided to add another point because of the double lock, which I think makes it a more fair score for the water resistance or the waterproofness. It seems that Explorer is 100 meters waterproof instead of water resistance, which would mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, that it should be able to handle this 100 meters depth. It's not only a reference number like in other watches. Another thing that I add is another point in the strapability, basically because of the quality of the spring bar having a thicker point. So it's a very strong way to fix the strap or the bracelet to the watch. Still, the position is not the best position on everything, but I have to give another point because of this quality of the spring bar. Also, replaceability, I have added another point, basically because now this watch is easier to get second hand and the prices have been decreasing in the last months. Thus, it's easier to replace the watch should you damage it beyond repair. It's not that difficult or as difficult anymore. Still very expensive, but that's the way it is. Now, the total, it adds to 96 points. And there are some changes in the other watches. Like in the Summiteer, I have subtracted 1 point in the wrist fatigue, basically because it's not a fair comparison to say that both the Explorer and the Summiteer are as comfortable. The Explorer is superior, thus there needs to be some difference there. Another change is the adventure identity. I think that I was a little bit unfair with the 8 points, only because it's a little bit dressier, but not by that much. I think that's a better score to have another point, so it's a 9, a solid 9. And the Ranger, I have subtracted 1 point because it doesn't have drill lugs. So one thing for the other. That's the way I feel. So the end score is 96 points for the Explorer, which lives in not that far away from the Summiteer and from the Ranger, so a few more points there. And the Alpinist basically with the same punctuation because it's very much penalized by the strap that it brings. But again, if we remove the consideration of the strap, things are a little bit different. The Explorer and the Alpinist are very close, and the Ranger and the Summiteer, they all take 10 points one from the other. I think the Ranger is the most adventure to exploring-oriented watch. The Summiteer is also a very good contender with very few things that penalize the watch, like maybe the anti-magnetism and precision of the movement and everything. And then the Explorer, which is very solid. It's a superb watch by itself, and that will be reflected in the other comparison that I am preparing. And of course, the Alpinist with the 84. So the Alpinist being an iconic exploring watch, so close to the Explorer, really speaks volumes about the capability of these two watches and the rest of the range. So it's all up to what you can afford to take to adventure. I don't think the Explorer is thought to be a true adventure watch, but it's so well built, there's so much quality in the watch that it really can do the job.
There is still a lot of subjectivity there, and of course you can add, subtract, and make your comments and make your own mind about the watches. This is a general, personal, trying to be objective perspective of these watches as adventure watches. But of course, at the end of the day, all of them are very capable, and you will not be wrong with any of them. So now I'm going to keep working on the comparison of the Explorer as a watch by itself against all of these watches, just considering it as a single watch, to do whatever you need a watch to be. So now things are going to be a little bit different there, so stay tuned because there is quite a few surprises. Now, thank you very much for being here, for listening, and for watching this video, and see you soon. Goodbye.